Nicholas Cresswell in his journal writes in 1775, he says, "One of our company caught a large catfish which made a most delicious pot of soup. Heavy rains this morning which oblige us to make a sort of an awning with our tent cloths and blankets. Got around a big horseshoe in the river just yesterday, a big bend in the river." So there's Nicholas Cresswell. He is journeying in the back country around in the Kentucky area, and they're experiencing inclement weather. It's cold, it's rainy. That's what we're going to talk about today, how to stay warm and rainy, or how to stay warm when it's cold and rainy. I've got with me Dan Wowak, and what do you think about staying warm in this kind of weather?
Well, it's definitely very important, and I recently did some research and read that when the long hunters were out, their feet were so arthritic from the cold temperatures and the wet rain with their moccasins that they a lot of times had to sleep with their feet towards the fire just so they can get up and move around appropriately in the morning.
Yeah, it's always difficult in this kind of weather to stay healthy enough to continue to do what you need to do, and staying warm when sleeping or whatever, or when it's really rainy out.
Yep, and I think we can all agree that a good night's sleep is the best thing we can get. So we can look at now how not only to have our shelter set up, but we can talk about building a good debris bed and how to wrap up appropriately with our blanket.
So how do we stay warm?
Well, there's a couple different things we can do. The first thing is we can use a wool blanket appropriately, but before we even wrap up in our wool blanket, we can build a debris bed. And a debris bed is going to insulate us from the ground and help us with conduction. So it's not going to suck the heat out of us. In this type of environment, we can either use browse, so we can use something like evergreen. We can break the branches off, or we can use debris from the ground. So where we're at right now, we don't have any access to any evergreen, so what we're going to use is debris off the ground. It is wet, but that's just all part of it. It's better to have that insulative value on the ground and be a little bit wet than lay directly on the wet ground.
So our choices are what, leaves, or if we had really thick moss, or what else?
Yep, anything like leaves, moss, you can mix all that stuff in together, or those pine boughs. You really want, once it's compressed, about 4 inches of compressed material. So we really need to load the leaves in here to get on there and get really cocooned down.
So 4 inches when it's compressed?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
12 inches is even better, but we'll go with 4.
We're gonna go out and get a bunch of leaves and see what we can do.
So this is really what we want to start with. It's very simple. You see there's not much to it.
Yeah.
We think there's going to be much more to it, but there's not. So what we want to first do is get any of these larger sticks that we might have picked up, get them out of the way, and really just get the hump that's in the center of this out. We want to make it somewhat like a mattress. Once it's like this, it's then just to lay on it and see where we're at with our compression. So I'm really close to that 4 inches.
Seems like you're kind of suspended above it.
Yep, and that's what we're looking for ideally. You need to remember that in any type of setting like this, it's not always going to be about the most comfort. It's just keeping ourselves safe in this type of environment. It's adding comfort, but it's also keeping us safe because it's keeping us warmer throughout the night. Now it's time to set our blanket up, but rather than just folding it over us and only having one layer of wool on the top and the bottom, we can really maximize the use of this blanket in cold weather like this. So to do so, we want to unroll this blanket and set it up that it looks like a diamond shape. It doesn't have to be perfect at first. We're just looking for that diamond shape. Then once we lay in the blanket, we want to create as many layers on top and on its bottom as possible. So we take this bottom piece, we fold it underneath our legs so it covered our feet, and then we take one of these ends, fold it across our body. This is giving us one layer on the top. Now we already have one layer on the bottom, but we're going to take this end that we just folded over and put this underneath us also. So now we have 2 layers underneath. Now we're going to put a 3rd layer over us on the top, like that. And then guess what? We're going to fold underneath. And now we have 3 layers underneath us. And now we can take off our hat and we can slide back and just make some very fine adjustments here in order to get comfortable. Now we have maximum coverage with our blanket, keeping us nice and warm.
So we're out in the wilderness. Maybe we don't have the right kind of coat, but we've got a blanket. How can we wear it?
Yeah, so there's several different ways we can wear it. The easiest way is to take your blanket and just basically lay it over your shoulders and use something called a blanket pin. And that pin pins through such as that and just rotates around. And that's gonna just keep this in place like a shawl and give us that extra layer of warmth. But if you have a little bit larger blanket than this, there's also another option, and that's what I'm gonna have you do right now.
Okay.
So we're gonna put the short side just up over your head, just like it's draped over, like you're a little kid trying to hide under the covers.
Okay, like that?
Yep, we don't even need to go that much over your head, just a little bit right there. Now in the front, because he doesn't have a blanket pin with him, what we're looking for is we're gonna use a thorn. And this thorn came off a locust tree. So we can take this in the front here and just pin that through. Now that's not gonna hold as well as a blanket pin, but it's still gonna work really good. You can then pull this back down, and now you also have a hood. Now all of this down here can get a little bit messy, so we can take just a very basic buckskin and tie this around us, just like that. And now we can have our hands out if needed. We can close in, and you can pull up your hood.
So we've got this one piece of garment, or this one blanket. During the day, it's cold out, we can wear this like a coat, and then later on in the night, all we have to do is take it off and it's a blanket. It's so versatile. I love this. Okay, so you're out in the woods, you got all this equipment, you got blankets and everything else. How do you carry all this stuff, still have your hands free to do what you need to do?
So traditionally a tump line was used many times, and this is a hand woven tump line that I made. Thicker section throughout the middle that's actually going to be against us, and then two longer ends on each end, and then they're also split out. It just gives it a lot more versatility. Total length of this is about 20 foot.
So yeah, it's like really a huge strap.
You can use it for not only carrying your blankets, but firewood. You can use it if you need to lash things up in the trees. All that we want to do is make sure this wide spot, this wide part of the strap is in front of the blanket, and then we take the two sides and cross over the blanket itself. And then we're going to roll the blanket around these two thinner straps. This is about the trickiest part, and the reason I say that is because we have to roll this and keep this out of the blanket. We're not going to roll that in.
Okay.
And now we can bring those straps into the center and begin to tie this off. There's no real particular way to specifically tie this off, but as long as you have this tied off so it holds your blanket in place. We can then take our tump line and throw it up over our shoulders and place it across our chest this way, or we can also place it across the front of our head and use our body weight to help hold that in place. The beauty of it though is it keeps our hands free, so we can hold our flintlock, we can still hunt, we can do work, and it's very easy to travel like this.
Sounds perfect. Well, I really want to thank Dan for bringing to us these skills and techniques, learning how to stay warm with nothing but a blanket, pile of leaves. It's so great to learn these techniques and kind of get into them and see them happen firsthand. So thank you so much, Dan, for bringing those. If you're interested in surviving in the woods, if you're interested in bushcraft, make sure to check out Dan's YouTube channel and of course his school, Coal Cracker Bushcraft. I'll make sure to put a link down in the description section. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.